Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
All right, and we're back. I'm your host, John Hunter, along with your co-host, Dillip Bugs.
Hi, I'm Dylan Boogs, and I almost got recasted once.
Yeah, actually, this episode. We were supposed to record this on Monday and on Tuesday.
But we both didn't feel it Monday.
Yeah, I gave you a pass on Monday, but on Tuesday, you just ghosted, and it didn't take me long to find your replacement, surprisingly. I thought it'd be tough, but, like, a lot of people want your spot, Bug.
Yeah, you went with a man who eats ass every night.
He can't help it. He lives with her.
He can help it.
Oh.
Just tell her to sleep with her ass facing the other way.
Yeah, well, that's on you, man. What's that saying? You almost replaced right there. Anyway, so what's new with you? What have you been up
I
to
have
in your
no
life?
value. What's new with me? So, it's a week before Christmas.
Okay.
I have zero shopping done, and I just found out that everything on Amazon says it's going to come after Christmas. So
Alright.
I actually have to go out.
Yeah, no, you're in luck. I'm going to give you the John Hunter tips for success on Christmas.
All right, let me write this down.
So,
Side column.
since I've got out of college, I've done the same Christmas shopping every year. The day of Christmas, I wake up, and then I briefly fall back asleep for 2 hours. Then I wake up again, and I realize I'm to texts or phone calls like, "Hey, like we're getting ready to have dinner. Like, where the hell you at?" I'm like, "Oh fuck!" So then, on the way to my parents' house, I will stop at Get-Go or Sheetz, whatever your local gas station is for anyone else that wants to do this, and they will have gift cards there to pretty much any place like Texas Roadhouse, Target, Home Depot, Dick's
Them
Sporting
Home
Goods, stuff
Depots.
like that. Yeah, so pretty much any gift card you need, boom, you buy them right there. Day of Christmas, they give you the envelopes. You just have a pen on you. Like that's all it takes. A little preparation. Have a pen on you. Write the name. Boom. You go to Christmas dinner. Time to pass out presents. You reach in your coat pocket. Bang, bang, bang. Christmas shopping done.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like it. I'll tell you why I don't like it, because I feel like it's cheap.
Well, they're not like I know what you mean by cheap. Like it's like cheating, but it's not like. So, would you rather get a gift that you didn't want, or have the option to get something that you do want at a certain place?
Dude, my grandma usually gives me like a $15 gift card to Dunham's, and
Yeah,
I'm like, great.
I give.
What the hell am I gonna get?
I give
What the hell am I gonna get at Dunham's?
oh,
What?
dude, fit for $15, you can get like 6 packs of Big League Chew.
Like 2 gym shorts.
All right, hey, guess what? We're gonna have a special guest this episode. Introducing to the show, the illustrious Aaron Nyman.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's new with you? We were just talking about you eating ass recently too.
Yeah. How'd you know? It's like it wasn't even like 10 minutes ago.
We could smell.
It's
We
no
could
secret.
smell your breath.
Oh, it's within like 10 minutes ago.
All
Ladies
right.
and
Let's get
gentlemen,
back to the
the man-
topic though, Boog. But I'm
the
saying, like, when I give a
we
gift
have
card,
guest-
when I give a gift card, $50 minimum.
Okay, $50 is pretty good. Usually, like, see, the reason why I don't like it is because usually, like, if aunts or uncles or whatever get us gift cards, it's usually like $15, like Starbucks, Dunham's. I don't know. Like, I feel it feels cheap to me. Feels cheated.
Yeah, because you're
Can
a
I give
very
you-
ungrateful person, though.
Can
No,
I give
I
you
am
my 2
grateful.
cents?
I'm grateful for that, but I just
Yeah, let the man talk, Dillip.
Mine, $10. That's my minimum.
That's your minimum that you
A
give
minimum.
people?
Yeah.
Aaron gives out McDonald's gift cards. He's like, I think there's like $2.59 left on this.
I found some I found some McDonald's coupons in the mailbox.
You know what my maximum is?
What?
$12.
$15.
All right, keeping it tight. Okay.
Do gift cards dip down below $15?
They have a,
Yeah,
it
you
could
can
be
give
anything.
$5. You can give $5 gift cards. Yeah.
Oh man, Bug, you should give someone like a $1 gift card. Don't be like keep the change, you filthy animal. That's a
What?
Christmas
have
reference.
$1 gift card that doesn't scan because there's a shit stain on it.
All right, that's too far, Bug. Come on, it's Christmas.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
Christmas.
good segue. Speaking of Christmas, we got another Christmas film here for you. This week we're reviewing the Gremlins. We've all seen the Gremlins, right?
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Well, I had hoped we did if we're gonna review it, but
No,
yeah.
we don't have to watch movies to review them. It's 2019. You just like
No, you gotta
YouTube
review them.
Gotta watch them, Bug. This is how you almost got replaced, Bug.
yeah.
What
You
what
wouldn't-
person who does review doesn't? I understand like, yeah, you remember that Cuphead review where the guy's like, I couldn't even make it past the tutorial. It
Oh
was
yeah,
horseshit.
they
You
they
know?
ate that guy alive. That's you,
Yeah.
Bug. You're Cuphead, but not but
Yeah.
the guy, not Cuphead the guy, but the Cuphead guy.
I couldn't even make it past the trailers. They're garbage.
So am
It's
I
like-
guy? Am I the Cuphead guy?
Yeah,
Am I the guy?
No, this is what you are, Bug. You're a piece of shit.
Well,
they fired him.
at least I have a title.
All right, let's talk. Gremlin's a classic. Like it's up there, man. Like I will easily say this is the best Christmas horror movie, in my opinion. I mean, at least it has the widest range of audience as well. If you really think about it, like anyone could watch this. You can put it on at like any Christmas like event you go to, and young, old, everybody could watch it.
Yeah.
Pretty aggressive though at points.
It was
Oh,
very-
it definitely. Yeah, that's actually a little trivia for you guys out there. This is one of the first films, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, that led to the PG-13 rating. At the suggestion of Steven Spielberg, who
What
also was an executive producer on this movie.
Hot
is
damn.
there a specific scene that you can point to and say like, oh yeah, that'll be PG-13?
Yeah. So there was
The
some
Temple of
gruesome
Doom?
stuff.
Kalima.
Oh yeah, we're talking about this movie, Bug. Come on.
Yeah.
But I think there's a bunch of stuff in this one. Like the gremlin in the microwave.
Ooh yeah.
Doesn't one go down like the garbage disposal too?
Was that the second one where they jammed that one dude through the garbage
That,
disposal?
that might be. But yeah, there's some scenes. It's a little bit darker of a movie.
Yeah.
Even compared to today's standards, though, I don't think this would be a PG-13. But it's crazy to think about the different movie ratings. Like when Jaws came out, that movie was PG.
I honestly believe that this came out nowadays, it'd get a PG-13.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
another
still
thing. If this came out nowadays, this would be like a CGI like shit fest.
Oh yeah, it would be a disaster.
That's what makes you worried about Gremlins 3, which allegedly they're working on, but they've allegedly been working on that since Gremlins 2 came out in 1990. You know what else happened in 1990, Bug?
You were born.
I was born.
Well,
What a
thank-
shit year.
It was pretty solid.
No, what a shit month.
So you
No,
guys,
what a shit day.
you done? You done doing that nonsense you're doing?
Yeah.
I could tell
got
a little
it
bit
out.
earlier, Bug, coming into this, that you had a little bit. It was gonna be one of those rough days for you, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you know. I'm tired.
We gotta stay up.
All right. Well,
Oh.
We gotta stay up until 4 a.m. tomorrow.
Oh, that's yeah.
4:35.
Little
What's the run
little.
time on
I was 2 hours and 35 minutes. A little backstory.
Shit.
tomorrow we are all going to see the premiere of the new Star Wars.
And the only
And we
showing
got
that
tickets
wasn't
for a showing that I didn't even know they had at 1:15 a.m.
Surprisingly, it was the whole theater's goddamn open.
Yeah, well,
Did-
if the early reviews are any indication, this is something that we preach at this podcast: is always formulate your own opinion, as well as don't put other people down for how they feel. Something that might be your favorite movie might not be someone else's favorite movie. But
Yeah, you piece of
side,
shit.
yeah, you pieces of shit. But side note, early reviews not great for that. But luckily for us, we got a good one in front of us here. You guys ready to talk a little bit about the directors and cast and some miscellaneous trivia there?
And Gimmers.
I'm down. I'm game.
Oh, okay, cool. But hey, glad you could be here, Boog.
Glad you showed up.
I'm glad that I'm able to participate.
Um,
All right, so a little bit. Film was directed by Joe Dante, who, for you horror guys out there, he before this directed The Howling, which I'd say top 5 werewolf movie. For you kid movie fans out there, and also this was prime like our age growing up. He also directed Small Soldiers.
oh yeah,
The
I can see that.
Gorgonites are in the trees. I watched that.
Yeah.
I actually watched that movie recently, and it doesn't hold up. But I loved that movie as a kid.
It didn't hold up then either. That's because we were like 10.
Yeah, it was so. This is crazy. Side note, because I know we did just talk Star Wars, but they. I feel like there's going to be this weird thing with kids that were born, and maybe I don't know, because you have a lot of like older influences, Boog, but kids that were born like as the prequel trilogy came out might look at that trilogy differently. Like me and you, Aaron, we were born at a different time where in between, like we were in between the last Star Wars, and there was a significant amount of time like we were younger age, like coming through that original trilogy or the prequel trilogy when that came out. Like, so as a kid, like we could appreciate, like we liked it, but we still knew how great the original was. Like, if the first movies you're watching are the prequel ones, and like that's like your kid coming up on those, like they might
Just imagine kids now.
they might like that more than the original trilogy. That kind of scares me, man. But that's where we say it's all subjective of what you like. Like, hey, you could like shit, like it's whatever, man. Like, there's terrible movies I like, but I have like affinity for them just for the fact that like I had like associated like being a kid and seeing those movies for the first time. It's I don't know, it's just weird like that. Like when you take in media and stuff. Besides that, Joe Dante, he did the segment in the Twilight Zone movie, It's a Good Life. Another favorite, well, not a favorite, but I really do enjoy this movie. And you don't really see it on as much anymore, but The Burbs. He directed The Burbs.
I don't know if I've ever seen it
remember
on
The Burbs.
TV. I've always just streamed it, usually on Hulu.
Looks
But
like recently he did some Looney Tune stuff.
Yeah, with that one with Brendan Fraser. He did direct Gremlins too, which
Yeah.
that movie's batshit insane. But I also love Gremlins too.
And it's actually kind of impressive. This is kind of before the age of Hollywood finding a new director for every
Yeah.
movie in a series. What else has he done? He did some recent stuff with Corey Feldman. Just lost a little bit of respect with him.
Dude, Corey Feldman's in this movie.
True.
All right, so Joe Dante, great guy. Writer, we got Chris Columbus, which this guy actually has been a part of a lot of productions. Some big ones. He was actually the director for the first 2 Harry Potter movies. I didn't know this. He was the producer on Jingle All the Way. Gotta love that.
I love the first 2 Harry Potter movies.
You know what other 2 movies that you love that he
Atmosphere
directed?
on were great. Rent.
No. I mean, he did direct that, but no, the other 2 movies he directed that you definitely love are Home Alone and Home Alone 2.
Uh,
I was gonna say Bicentennial Man. I know you're a big Robin Williams
I'm
Bicentennial.
actually a big Bicentennial Man fan. Do you know that movie was not well received?
I did not like it, so I would say I could see that.
Bullshit.
Oh, well, so this might be damning for me, but I am not a Robin Williams fan.
Yeah, it's damning.
I can appreciate how some people can like him, but his type of comedy was just it just didn't
It
do it
was
for me.
it was it was the modern day telling of Pinocchio, and I fucking loved it.
I actually really enjoyed Bicentennial Man. It was a very
Hey, that's what I'm
moving
saying. Like to
story.
each their own. It just did
They
not
actually
do it for me.
Bicentennial Man underperformed at the box office. Ooh, dude, does it give box office information at of the Gremlins? Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh, Gremlins is actually one of the adjusted highest grossing horror movies.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
11 million budget, and box office was 153.1.
You have to think too.
That's huge.
Yeah, you have to think it too that merchandising this movie had to make a killing. Like everyone knows what a Mogwai is, Gizmo, the Gremlins. Like you have to think they cleaned up on that as well, especially in
Yeah.
the '80s when they were huge on like
hmm
kids cereals and like
Toys,
lunchbox. Yeah,
collectibles, Beanie Babies. Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean that's the same thing like with the Mandalorian with Disney going on now. Like Baby Yoda, that's like the modern day Gremlin. I mean, if
It's
you
the
look at him,
same.
his design's taken right off a damn Gremlin.
hmm
All right, let's get in the cast here
Or
a
is the
little bit.
Gremlins design taken off of Yoda?
Oh, so it turns out that the company who owns the merchandising rights is NECA, which stands for National Entertainment Collectibles
Oh, NECA,
Association.
yeah.
NECA.
Actually, have a pretty cool Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th figure from them. They do good work.
They just unveiled their Christmas 2019 collectible, which features two gremlins singing carols. And this actually looks like it's pretty damn good detail in this. And it's funny because you know how big they are. Yeah, gremlins are really tiny. And they're wearing earmuffs and they look ridiculous. And
So,
they're naked, but one has a scarf.
so while looking up the special effects, I actually found a pretty cool, before we get into the cast, but a few tidbits about the voices of the characters. So Gizmo was voiced by Howie Mandel, which most notably known for Deal or No Deal, like in modern times now. But the old
Yeah.
movie he was in that I really liked growing up, Little Monsters,
Yeah.
with Fred
Remember
Savage.
that.
The
Yep.
voice of Stripe was done by Frank Welker, who voiced Fred on Scooby Doo as well as Megatron on Transformers. And also, I didn't know this, Nibbler on Futurama.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah. And then some of the other Gremlin voices where you'll appreciate this, performed by Michael Winslow, Police Academy,
yeah.
and
Yes.
Peter Cullen, voice of Optimus Prime. That's pretty notable things there.
Yeah. Those guys went on to keep doing great stuff.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on doing what you do.
All right,
Thumbs up, baby. Thumbs up.
let me just double. All right, so this is actually pretty good for the puppet design. It was by Chris Wallace as well as Rick Baker, Rick Baker, super famous in the horror industry. Obviously, did the Werewolf for American Werewolf in London, a bunch of other things. So that's actually that's why they were done such quality. Like I wish they still, and I understand why they go to CGI because it's so much easier to produce. Like the puppets are time consuming and things like that, but it just makes it so much more realistic when something's out there. Like you have to find that perfect blend, like the original Jurassic Park, like between the animatronics and the CG, not like Jurassic World where it's just CG.
I wonder where or who currently has the original puppets from the Gremlins.
Look, if you make it big enough, you can buy this. You can actually buy a replica one for $180.
Replica
Ooh,
what?
A Gremlin.
Gremlin.
Oh, you're gonna love this.
Oh, I'd want this one, the 250 from Gremlins 2, the Flasher, the one that wears the jacket and flashes people.
You guys are gonna love this sentence. As special effects relied mainly on puppetry, an earlier attempt to use monkeys was abandoned because the test monkey panicked when made to wear a gremlin head.
I would pay money just for that footage. Like, we're
Oh,
obviously on the podcast, we're against animal cruelty,
You
but
could
at the
not
same
do that
time,
today.
that puppet just run, or yeah, puppet, that gremlin just running, yeah, gremlin, that monkey just running around with a gremlin head on, be great.
You think they like you think they gave him like time to adapt? You know, like we'll just put the mask on him, like let him wear it for like a day or two and just see if he
I just
gets
picture
used to
him
it.
screeching, Corey Feldman screaming like, ah, get me out of here.
This is better than what I'm doing tonight.
Steven Spielberg's there, because he's executive
Yeah,
producer. I just picture him standing there.
he was in the movie, wasn't he?
I don't know.
He was on like a bicycle, if I remember.
I thought he's in the
he
second
was a
one.
bicycle?
Yeah, he played a bicycle bug.
Man
Yeah,
has many traits.
All right,
You saw him on a bike in the movie.
let's get onto the cast here. So, first character we see in this, Randall Peltzer. He plays the dad in the movie, the one who actually goes and picks up the gremlin from the Chinese, like, underground Chinatown shop. Was played by musician and notable writer Hoyt Axton, which I didn't know this until like researching for the episode. You know the song like Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
Yeah.
He wrote that song like Three Dog
No.
Night, like performed it, made it a number one hit, but he was the writer of that song. So little known fact. Some other notables we got going on here. Uh, the neighborhood. Which this was weird to me. Like, I guess he was his friend, but the main character played by Zach Gilligan, Billy, um, he was out of college. He was out of high school, whatever, working at the bank, and his friend was like a elementary, middle school boy, and Corey Feldman, like he was the neighbor. Um, but obviously Corey Feldman, real big in the '80s. He was pretty much in everything back then. The same year that this was filmed, he was in Friday the 13th Part 4. I think the year after, what was this, 84? 85, he had some scenes in Friday the 13th, at the beginning of Friday the 13th Part 5, as well as a little movie you might have heard of called The Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
86, I know he was in Stand By Me, Stephen King, classic.
Was 86 also the year of the Burbs?
No, Burbs was after Lost Boys. So Lost Boys was 87, which I'd like to do a review on that because, I mean, we all, I know Aaron does. I don't know if you do, Boog, but love the Lost Boys. And
Oh, I love
the
Lost
Burbs
Boys.
was 89.
Yeah.
It's been a
Think we
long
do-
time since I've seen the Burbs.
Can
Yeah.
we do a review of the Burbs? Is it considered horror?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're like, whatever. We could do it. It's horror enough. So we could do the Burbs.
It's horror enough.
If
It qualifies.
if people want to see a review of the Burbs, send me an email.
We'll
Leave it
remind
up
you
to
the
we'll
email
leave it up
address
to the
at end.
fans.
Let them come.
So back to the main guy, Billy. Zach Gilligan. He was also in a horror movie in the '80s. Another one, Waxworks, with like the creepy like wax figures and stuff like that. Obviously in Gremlins 2 as well. Who else do we have here? I love this guy. I always felt like this guy was in a bunch of stuff, but always felt like he should be in more. Dick Miller, that plays the neighbor, Murray.
I thought, isn't Dick Miller?
You're thinking of a different Dick Miller.
Nah, that dude's been in like a ton of movies.
Whoa, this guy's been in a ton of stuff. Like,
But they're
Um,
all
yeah, but he always plays like bits parts. He was always a good character actor. But the one that always stuck out for me was his scene in the original Terminator when he goes to the gun, the shop.
Oh yeah.
He was the garbage man in the Burbs.
yeah.
Says he's in Small Soldiers. Wonder what he did in that.
Yeah, it's been a while, but like he looks like a guy that could be in a ton of movies, and I mean he was in a lot of like smaller bit parts and stuff like that, but he has a very like recognizable face.
Mm-hmm.
And he was great in this as well. You got Zach, Zach, Billy, his girlfriend, played by Phoebe Cates, who,
Mm-hmm.
if you have ever seen Fast Time at Ridgemont High, you know who Phoebe Cates is.
Oh yeah.
Bug doesn't. Bug's never seen that movie. You're not old
What
enough,
movie is
Bug.
it?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, my mom doesn't let me watch movies like that.
Bug, you're 22. You can watch whatever you want.
That's not what my mom told me.
All right, and then this Ruby Deagle, the old lady in this movie, I would definitely put her on my top 10 lists of characters I've hated in movies. Not when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, I hate them because they're so bad acting. Like just because their character's so despicable. Like at one part in the movie, she comes in and she wants Billy's dog because it broke something on her lawn, and she talks about how she's like the different like ways she's gonna torture and kill his dog. Like I don't know, like where I'm from, if
We
someone
discussed.
if someone came up and told me that, like you gotta kill him at that point. Hey, you don't think I never dug a fucking hole before? I'll dig a fucking hole. That's a Joe Pesci impersonation for you today.
We've discussed this before in earlier podcasts. Any movie that kills a dog is not worth watching because it's not a good movie.
I know for a fact that we've said things close to that, but not to that extreme because I've listened to every podcast because I edited them both.
Name a movie where they kill a dog and it's not a good movie.
Santa's Sleigh. No, that was a good movie.
The original Halloween, they kill a dog.
You're hurting yourself.
And that
You're
movie's
hurting
great.
yourself.
But yeah, I definitely
I'll
got a
go.
soft like in a movie. If someone kills a dog, I
It's
feel
probably a good movie.
yeah, I feel worse than if they kill a person. Like I don't give a fuck if you kill a person, but a dog, it hits me.
It's about that shock value, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, Ruby Deagle, played by Polly Holiday, who she definitely has to. I guess she's still alive. Yeah, she's still alive. Good for her.
Wow.
She's born 1937, still going.
Yeah, but her pictures from her from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, she's also been in a bunch of stuff. She's in The Parent Trap.
Yes, she was.
All right, anyway, let's get into the good stuff here. Let's talk about the plot of Gremlins. You ready for this?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not too much to say here. Like everyone's seen the Gremlins. If you haven't, here's the synopsis. Stop the podcast. Go watch the fucking Gremlins.
I got a little nitpick. All right, let's talk.
What's your nitpick about the Gremlins?
Yeah, about the Gremlins.
Okay. I do have some stuff when we talk about like pros and cons. Like this movie actually for like a kid holiday like movie, there's a lot of like dark background things going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so movie starts out, Randall Peltzer, the dad, struggling inventor. He's visiting Chinatown to kind of like pitch to these different shops there, these cheesy inventions that he does. Like he has this one that it's, I think it's called like the hotel on the go or something like that. Like you're supposed to put it in your luggage as your toothbrush, a mirror. It squirts toothpaste.
Genius.
Yeah, kind of, but
Nah, that's ingenious.
so he ends up going to this like underground Chinese shop led there by this little kid. The owner, Mr. Wing, listens to his pitch and everything like that. He isn't interested, but he hears this sound and he goes and checks. Randall does, and it's this little like creature in a cage, and that's the Mogwai that he finds out. he says, "Oh, this is perfect. This is what I should get my kid for Christmas." And they're like, "The Mogwai's not for sale." But the little kid that let him in there, whose grandfather owns the shop, works out a deal with him without the grandfather knowing. He buys the gremlin off him, takes it home. Well, it's not a gremlin yet, but the Mogwai brings it home. But he lets him know the rules. Um, Bright lights or sunlight will kill it, as well as don't get it in contact with water, and most importantly, never feed it after midnight. And I do want to stop here for 1 second, because how does that work? Like, is there
That's
a
right, to midnight,
Yeah,
right?
is there a standard time on that? That's
Yeah,
one of
like
the only issues I've ever had with Gremlins is, like, do they
that's
recognize
what I was gonna
daylight
say.
saving time, or
Does a Mogwai, like if he stays up like late at night and then like goes to bed really late, like doesn't his biological clock change? Like
yeah, there's some they should have thought that one out a little bit better. Like, maybe don't feed it after dark. Maybe it's something
yeah,
like that, or
after dark.
yeah, I don't know.
And
But that's something that
then
always just sat weird with me. Like,
oh, he's up in Alaska. It's always dark.
never feed him; he'll just starve.
Never.
So anyway, Randall takes him back home. In this part, you get a pretty cool shot. Um, their hometown, Kingston Falls. I really like this because it was pretty good world building. You see the town and the people go, and you get a feel for some of the characters, like the sheriff. You see a family talking to, and this is where we're first introduced to the mean old lady. What the fuck was her name? Mrs. Deagle. And she like is associated with the bank, and also has people like rent off her. And in the one scene, a mother with her two young kids comes up and say like, "Oh, my husband died. Like, we're gonna be short on the rent," and that Mrs. Deagle actually treats her absolutely terrible. And so that was a good scene for showing like what type of character she was.
Hmm.
And then you come into the bank, and um, Randall's son Billy, who's the main guy, Zach Gilligan's character, works in the bank. Um, yeah, so Mrs. Deagle goes into the bank, and confronts Billy about something that his dog had done earlier, destroyed her imported like snowman Christmas decoration. Threatens, like we talked about before, to take his dog and kill him. Um, so after that, Billy takes his dog, who was in the store or in the bank with him, takes it home. Um, and then we're introduced to uh, the Mogwai for the first time. Earlier on, you don't really see it when it's in the Chinese shop, but when they bring it home, he's like, Randall's like, "I got the present for you," whatever. They open it up, and that's when he meets the Mogwai and names him Gizmo, which I feel like because of this movie, there's like every other house in a suburban neighborhood has a dog named Gizmo. I feel like it, or a cat. Everyone has like a pet named Gizmo.
You think it happened from this?
Oh, 100%.
That's what caused it.
But his dad tells him the rules and everything like that. Um, Eventually, the neighbor boy, Corey Feldman's character, comes over, and Billy's showing him uh, Gizmo, and accidentally bumps. It was like paintbrushes and stuff, because Billy is also like a comic book artist trying to get his comics picked up, and it spills onto Gizmo, and from his back sprouts five other Mogwai. Um, most
Mogwai.
Yeah, Mogwai, but most notably, of those ones, there's one that has a stripe on his head, and they creatively name him Stripe. But right off the bat, they can tell that he's a little bit more aggressive than the rest of them. So in order to kind of figure out more, and Billy's not really sure, he meets up with one of his former science teachers, and shows them uh, the Mogwai, and actually gives one of them to him to perform experiments on, see what they're about. Um, and so they start getting into like a little mischief and stuff, and they're treating Gizmo bad. and Stripe is able to trick Billy into feeding them after midnight by messing with his alarm clock. And this leads to them going into this cocoon state. And
Which is also pretty bullshit.
the cocoons.
Not the clock. It's like, oh.
Yeah, you think if you had something that had that kind of rules, like you really don't know. So that's another thing I'll talk about, the pros and cons, but there's a lot. So one of the overarching themes in this movie is that Americans are dumb as fuck. No, that's literally what it is. Like if you break it down and look at it, and that's kind of playing like we have that like hubris, that ignorance, like, oh, we don't have to follow rules, we do whatever we want, but there is consequences. So like that's something that this movie kind of has going, like underlying theme. But I guess that's a reason how they can fall for something like that. So even the Mogwai that the science teacher, Mr. Hansen, has, it was able to get some food at some point and is in a cocoon state. The next thing comes up here is Billy's currently away from his home, and he finds out that the cocoons hatch. You get a pretty cool scene with Mr. Henson where he doesn't really get a good look at it, but it gets out of its cocoon and goes hides, and he's thinking like, oh, I could feed it, I could lure it out with a candy bar, and he gets attacked and killed by this gremlin. At the same time, Billy was going to meet with him, and he realizes, well, if this happened with this one, this could happen back to the other ones that I have at my house. And this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is the sequence when they hatch out and Billy's mother's at home and they start like trying to attack her and stuff like that. And so Billy rushes back home and she's fighting them, and she throws one of them in the microwave and explodes them. The last one had his mother pinned down as Billy came in the door, and his dad had these like antique like swords on the wall, and he takes a sword and he chops the one gremlin's head right off that was like had his mom pinned down, and knocked its head right into the fireplace. I think that would be something that gets that to the PG-13, decapitating gremlins into a fire pit.
Yeah, that was fairly violent.
Yeah. So at this point, all the gremlins were killed except for Stripe. He escapes. He jumps out the window, makes a run for it, and so they try to track him down. But he was able to go to their local YMCA, and he hops in the swimming pool, and that starts spawn off multiple. And that's another scene I really like in that movie, with the pools filling up with like, they had to have used some type of what's it called, like dried ice or something, but it has like that smoky like fog coming up out of the water, and lights are flashing like green and red underneath. So Billy's like, oh fuck, like we fucked up. So he goes to warn the police, and they don't believe him, because I mean, to be fair, if you were a police officer and someone came like, oh, there's little gremlins. Yeah. But at this point, they make it out of the gremlins make it out of the swimming pool, and they start overrunning the town. And they just start doing all kinds of like crazy like hijinks. Like the one messes with a street light, causing accidents. And then this is one of the most satisfying kills I think I've seen, is it goes to that evil Mrs. Deagle's house. And this would definitely be you, Boog, because she had like 30 cats like living in her house.
See, I don't understand that.
At some point, Boog, you're gonna have 30 cats.
Yeah,
because I have one cat, it is
even if you're not, you know you want one. You know you want more.
Honestly,
Boog, you're gonna be like 60 years old and have 30 cats. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't want more than
30 goddamn cats.
That motherfucker got like 30 goddamn cats.
I don't want more than one cat.
I understand you saying that, but I'm not feeling it.
Your mouth is saying no, but your eyes are saying yes.
Yeah.
but they mess with the wires on it. She has a chairlift to get up and down the stairs, and the one messes with her wiring, and she hops on it to go upstairs, and it rockets her right out the window as the cops are coming by, and she smashes into the street. Um, at the same time, some of the other ones go to the local bar where Billy's girlfriend Kate works. And
don't they like drink or something?
yeah, they're out there partying. They have like a recreation of that like famous was it like the poker dogs or whatever. Like so they're out there just they're goofy. They're little gremlin. They're little goofballs. But she's able to get out of there and distract them by using the flash on the camera. And that like stuns them for a second because the lights affect them. And she runs out and she's able to meet up with Billy and Gizmo, who go over to the bank to hide. And then at this point, you also get like a little bit of a weird backstory because earlier in the movie, Kate, she says that like she doesn't like Christmas, like she doesn't like that's her least favorite time of the year, and you don't really know. But for some reason, she reveals to Billy that her father. This was like the stupidest thing, but her father died on Christmas because he tried to. He dressed like Santa Claus and then come down the chimney, but he like fell and broke his neck. Which I was like, that. Why is this in here? Like, you didn't need this.
Not everybody likes Christmas.
Yeah, you could just not like Christmas. Like, you didn't.
That was just a strangely dark tone.
Billy should have been like, Kate, like, it's not my fault that your dad's a fucking idiot. And
yeah, really.
how did you think you're gonna fit down a chimney?
Because you're not.
Alright, so while this is going on, Billy and Kate realize, like, hey, it's like quiet, like, what happened to the Gremlins? So they find out that they were actually in the local movie theater, all of them, watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So they get a plan. They decide they're gonna blow up the movie theater and just take them all out. So they do that, but it turns out the last Gremlin, Stripe, had gone across the street to get more candy because he's always that Stripe, always getting away. And that leads us to our final climactic confrontation here. So right now, before we get into spoilers, which I really didn't want to do spoilers for this because everyone's already seen it, so it's just going to go through it. But we'll put a little pin in that, and we'll do our pros and cons. And since you're the guest host here, Aaron, I'm gonna let you go first. What's your first pro or con? It could be anyone, anything. Scene you like. Something that you really thought was done well. Boog, you still here, buddy?
Yeah, I'm around.
All right,
I will say it's been a while since I actually seen it. I will say probably the most notable scene I remember is probably the China shop.
The open, yeah, they actually did a good job setting that up. It really felt like a back.
It was mystical.
Back alley, like Chinatown type. Yeah.
Yeah. It had some mysticism to it, which really set the mood for the Gremlins, you know? It kind of came out of nowhere. It backed it up pretty well.
It did. I mean, you have to, because it's in a lot of ways it's a very practical movie, like based in real like kind of things, and like the Gremlins are such like a far-fetched mystical idea that you really had to set that up right before you got into everything. So I did like how they did that, as well as the actor that played Mr. Wing, who he had been in a lot of like Chinese films. I didn't know really too many that he'd been in besides Gremlins 2. But he was played by Kai Luke.
He's just like the typical.
Yeah, he had the long, wispy, like Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
But we didn't talk about this earlier, but I did just see this. Mogwai, translated into Cantonese, is actually devil.
Really?
Yeah. Pro I had, this is a really easy one, but the puppet and character designs. I mean, they're iconic. Everyone knows what a Mogwai. Everyone knows what a Gremlin looks like.
Yeah.
They did a great job on those, and obviously, if you're gonna have a movie with those creatures going around, like you have to make them look good. I did like the scene too. Like I've always been a big fan. Like obviously technology's moved on, but
Mm-hmm.
like stop motion when they first all come out of the YMCA and they're out in the street and they're walking
Oh
down the street. I
yeah.
love the stop motion, so I did appreciate that as well. Boog, what do you got? Pros and cons, buddy.
Pros and cons. Just gonna add on to what you
Didn't
said.
didn't they have like the didn't they do the classic like YMCA thing where they had a what's that group called?
The
Didn't one
Village
of them have
People.
yeah, the Village People? Didn't they redo that?
They might have. I'm not 100%.
I think they did with the Gremlins, of course.
Goddamn gremlins.
Gremlins.
All right, Boog, what do you got?
I was just gonna build on what your pro was. I mean, the Gremlins itself is just an iconic creature. So what I wrote was, I mean, it's very creative, very original movie. And just to show, I just want to say a little fact to help build on it. Chris Columbus, the writer, didn't write Gremlins with the idea that it could actually be made into a movie. It wasn't until the script was found and discovered by Steven Spielberg, who said it was one of the most original things he's ever came across. So
Spielberg
he
was
off
like, "Oh yeah,
and took it.
Yeah,
Took it over.
he's like I could see them little motherfuckers walking around. But that's it. This true. That's true. That is a good point. This did lead to a lot of like trying to knock off like what are those other? You got like critters, goalies,
yeah."
stuff like that.
Plus,
So
it's probably also toy soldiers, to be honest.
yeah, that movie did seem very derivative of this for sure. But then again, you did have the same director.
Hmm. Yeah.
um, I feel like we talked about a few of the cons earlier. That the only real some of the roles like yeah you go as far to set rules in this universe like don't keep them away from water, keep them away from light. But the one that like we talked about before, but really got to me is that whole after midnight. So if you're going as far as to establish rules in this universe, like why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. It's not necessary.
Yeah, figure that
Why not just say dark?
figure that midnight shit out.
Yeah. Don't give me a hard timeline. They're
Another
animals.
pro I had. The acting was very solid. You could really feel a bond between Billy and Gizmo. Um, the Kate, Phoebe Cates, her acting was great. I liked Hoyt Axton as the dad. Um, how the lady that played was it Polly Holiday played Mrs. Deagle. She came off as a real big piece of shit, but that was acted well. So the acting was solid.
Hmm.
World building was good. We talked about that at the beginning with the Chinatown, but the one scene that really stuck out to me was when they first introduced the town of Kingston Falls and the way they did the shot. That was very reminiscent of uh, another Stephen King produced movie, Back to the Future. When they're doing the shot and they're going through the town, you kind of can see how the town's set up. But even in this, more so, you see some of the main characters and stuff, how they interact with people, and it really gave you like a sense of character to the town. So I really like that when they do it in a movie. They do a lot of world building just by showing you instead of telling you like, oh, it's this or this person's like this. Like you see it, and that's a sign of good storytelling. Show don't tell.
Hmm. Hmm.
What else we got? Pros and cons here, boys.
Mm.
Pro for me was, even though it is a Christmas movie, what made it horror was it wasn't afraid to show the deaths of like the creatures and people. Um, I mean, you pointed out the death of the old lady was hilarious, but it
Yeah.
was, I mean,
Yeah, that's the part where there's some conflicting things in this because it's very much like these creatures are funny and mischievous and they do funny things, but at the same time they're also cold-blooded killers. And that's
Yeah.
what I was saying before, where there's a lot of dark undertones, where there's a lot of like real bleak things in like a dark comedy. Like early on when that lady is interacting, the lady and her kids are interacting with Miss Deagle, and she's like, "Oh, I don't care. Like, you better come up with the money. Why don't you ask Santa Claus for the extra rent money and stuff like that?" Just being like, whatever. And like the one point when they're walking away, the little kid says to the mom, she's like, "I'm hungry," and she's like, "Yeah, I know, me too." And then it's like it goes about it, and it's the cheery music. It's like that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And then with
it
the overall theme of this movie is pretty much, this is 1984, like Ronald Reagan, United States of America, like it's peak like xenophobia. Like that's the whole theme of this movie is foreigners. These creatures represent the foreigners coming in
They're
and
just coming in,
changing,
taking
yeah,
our jobs.
changing your way of life, just wreaking havoc. And it's like,
I heard Gremlins don't even celebrate Christmas.
probably not. But
I
like,
heard they
what's the message?
I heard they call it Happy Holidays.
What's the message they're trying to say here is that like some of that stigma and everything is self-made. This is this is a commentary on the state, especially at this time, and I mean it hasn't changed much at all now, of the American people.
If anything, it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it was basically saying like that's a big part of this movie too, when, and we'll get into it in spoilers, but everyone knows that they take the Mog Gizmo back at the end, and the Mr. Wing, the Chinese shop owner, is like, you're the Western world isn't ready for the Mogwai yet, and it just kind of shows like they're right at some points. Like if we were responsible and we handle things the correct way, Mogwai could be something that is integrated into the whole U.S. society. It would be more popular than having a pet dog. It would be like the next big thing. But whether through fear or ignorance or hubris, like you can't follow the rules, and we create our own monsters. And in a lot of way, that's very relevant today. This movie's a lot deeper than it has any right to be.
Or could you have an animal? Okay, could you have an animal without feeding it people food once?
No, I personally can't. My dogs love pizza.
Yeah.
I actually just said pizza, and from a dead sleep, Pierce sat up and was looking around. So
He does.
I better nix that. There's no pizza, buddy. Any other pros and cons? I mean, I really don't have very many cons about this movie. I mean, some of the cheesy stuff, but it could be in there, like Kate's whole backstory about her dad dying on Christmas.
Yeah.
Like if it was something like he was sick during Christmas, that'd be something. Like, but he died because he was an idiot.
Yeah, it's really what it boils down to.
Wasn't the like how the like how they like reproduce, or how they like multiply? Wasn't that taken like from Alien?
What?
Are you talking about like the Cocoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cocoon
A
kind
little
of looks like that. I could see that, but not really. I mean, the alien's produced by the face hugger in pretty much impregnating you, like by sucking on your face and your mouth, and it bursts out of the chest. But the eggs that face huggers come out kind of like the Cocoon, but
a little bit more violent with the aliens. It's a different type of horror movie.
I liked because we always talk about cheesy.
Would you actually classify this movie as a horror movie?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Especially the part I was talking about, like, so something we always talk about is cheesy jump scares and stuff like that, but this wasn't really cheesy. Like, I think it added to it, but after, spoiler alert, they beat Stripe. At the end, he comes back out of the water after being beat, like as a last jump scare, and he's just like the skeleton of it. And I thought that looked cool. Like it was cheesy, but not too cheesy. Like I like that. But definitely it's horror. Like if it was, I think
maybe you can call it
it's like a horror comedy.
Yeah.
but there's definitely dark.
I don't know if I call it that. Maybe I call it a scary movie.
Or yeah, I mean horror is just the overarching. I feel like that's like a you're just splitting hairs now, Aaron.
I might be.
But definitely with the design of the Gremlins and it definitely has the comic elements. I did like the scenes where they showed like the Gremlins in the bar or the movie theater, just like how goofy they were. But sometimes it kind of clashed with like how they would take people out. Like they were goofy and doing all these little like basically like pranks and stuff like that. But then they also would kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, we got any more pros and cons?
I mean, it's
No,
a classic '80s movie, so those do have some downsides. You
Yeah.
know, the writing, the
Yeah.
dialogue is always a little goofy. You know.
Yeah. I feel like this one after watching it recently, it was on IFC the other day again.
Mm-hmm.
Actually was just finished up again as I was we were starting to record this.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely holds up in it, but it most definitely feels like an 80s movie. Like you can definitely tell that Spielberg was on set for this. It has that kind of feel to it. Like I was saying before, especially that scene when they introduced Kingston Falls, it reminds you. I know it came before, but reminds you of a lot of some of the shots in Back to the Future. But not a bad thing. I mean, but a decidedly 80s movie for sure. All right, we're ready to get into the ending, the spoilers in the ending.
I thought you pretty much gave it
Yeah,
away.
I mean,
Stripes got away.
yeah. Well, Stripes gets away. He goes over to um, the local store next door. They chase him in there. Some battling goes on. Um, he ends up the final like climatic battle. Climbs into a water fountain. He's gonna try to spawn more gremlins. At the last second, Gizmo driving a pretty funny scene when he's driving the toy car. Um, is able to lay out like go off a ramp, lay out, and pull a string that opens up one of the skylights in the green room like area that this fountain's in. And it's kind of funny because Gizmo like smacks on the wall pretty hard. He just gets like launched and just smacks on the wall. But the sunlight hits him and starts melting him. It's pretty cool. It's like kind of remind me of Raiders of the Lost Ark, like just melting.
Honestly, that's the exact same thing.
Starts
Nice.
melting him there, and then he has that jump scare again. But they end up beating him, so they head back home with Gizmo, and they're recovering there. And Mr. Wing from the underground Chinese shop, he shows up, basically says like, "You Americans are pieces of shit. You can never have the Mogwai. I'm taking them back." But then he looks at Billy and he sees how he interacts with Gizmo. And he says, "But maybe someday, you might have a chance." And Gizmo's like, "Billy," like little cute voice, all emotional, and it ends. That's the Gremlins, and that's you never see the Gremlins ever again.
Except until Gremlins 2.
Till 19. That's let's talk a half a second here about Gremlins 2.
I don't remember. I think I've seen it once.
Oh, I
and
love
remember-
Gremlins 2, but that movie is batshit insane. They have a scene in that movie where they stop the movie and you're looking at a movie theater within a movie theater. So the people are watching the movie Gremlins 2, and then Gremlins start fucking with the projector that's showing it in the theater, and Hulk Hogan has to get up and rip his shirt off and say like, "Hulkamania's gonna run wild on you fucking Gremlins," and then they put the movie back on. It's nuts. They have Gremlins mutate into like spiders and gargoyles.
And the Gremlins talk.
Yeah, the one becomes like a super smart brain. Like that movie's wild. But I definitely like that movie. So that movie is more comedy than anything. But
Yeah.
I am a fan of Gremlins too. Spoiler alert: there is a sequel. Other spoiler alert: you're not going to believe the sequel that comes out.
I honestly I wouldn't be too upset if they attempt to reboot the series.
Yeah, so that's what the room. They have a writer, a attached to it now. And originally they were just going to make like a remake, and then they decided, especially with the way it's been going, the recent past like 2-3 years in Hollywood, the trend of doing these Lega sequels where it just ties back into the original. So they're gonna actually do a sequel set like modern times, like actually use like real life time, kind of like the Halloween 2018 did, where
Yeah.
it was set like 40 years later or whatever the amount of time was. So I would support that. That this is definitely
Yeah.
something that could work, especially like
Hmm.
if the characters are introduced. Like, I mean, you can do it with all new characters too.
Hmm. I mean, yeah. So, sometimes
Oh, and I just found this
maybe if
out.
they.
You are correct, Aaron. Steven Spielberg was riding a bike in this movie at one point.
Oh, I remember seeing them.
All right, so ratings and recommendations. I would give this I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It's
How do you
definitely
guys do it?
classic.
5 average? Did you like 7 average?
There's no, it's just whatever you want to rate it. So what we're real big on is it's whether you like it or not, but we do the rating and then we do a recommendation. So even if we gave a movie 3, we try to figure out who might still like this movie or who you would recommend to watch this or what type of setting. If it's like some schlocky trash movie, you can say maybe a group of your friends have been out drinking and you come back to their apartment and you just want to throw something on, or you're at a party or family get like, so we do, our big thing is,
They just hate
yeah,
themselves.
well, our big thing is if whether you like a movie or not, someone else might have the exact opposite opinion. Like, so we're just like whatever. Like, but you just give your own personal rating, what it means to you. But then you try to explain who you think might like this movie.
I get you.
All
I
right,
get you.
all right. Ratings and recommendations. So I would give this movie a 9 out of 10. Personally, I think this is a classic. Well, I don't even think that's personally. I feel like a lot of people think it's a classic. Um, well produced, uh, great talent, great story. Like you were saying before, Bug, this is a fairly original take. The before this, there's so many movies that spun off of this, that like derivative things like Critters, Ghoulies, stuff like that. So this was like the first of its kind. Um, Even watching it now, it definitely still holds up. If I'm gonna recommend it, I'd recommend it to pretty much anyone. Like we were saying way earlier in the podcast, this is a type of movie you could watch with anyone, young, old. There's something for everyone. It's not too graphic that even younger kids can't watch it. Um,
I'd still call it the PG-13 though.
yeah, there's definitely like we were saying, the decapitation,
Yeah.
some of the
The,
darker moments in the movie,
the
but
face melting scene at the end.
yeah, but even then, like kids could still watch. I mean, the first time I watched it, I think I was like 4 or 5. But definitely, pretty much anyone. I'd recommend this to anyone, even the most hardened horror fans. Definitely, this is another way you could look at this too. Is for if you have younger kids that you want to. I'm not saying force your kids into liking the stuff you like, but if you want to get them into horror films, this is definitely a good gateway film to see
I can see
if they're
that.
ready for
I
more
agree with
films
that.
of this genre. Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah. So it is a cult classic, and so you don't get that cult status by being average, you know.
Yeah, you definitely have to
So
stand out.
yeah, definitely have to stand out. I would probably give it an 8. The majority of people like it. Some people just don't like the genre, you know.
There's haters. That's something
Um,
we always talk about too. Is there's just haters out there. Some fuck them,
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
them.
There's always gonna be those people who like what they like and will never branch out, you know.
Hmm.
But I like what you say with this being a good gateway to horror movies. Um, the the plot surprisingly had a lot of depth, and there's a lot of side plots.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
So
I wanted to touch on it, but I got a little bit sidetracked there. But even the side plot, the neighbor Murray, how he thought, like, gave a little bit backstory, and this is actually a real phenomenon. Not getting too far into like the paranormal and stuff about the Gremlins of World War II, where British
Mm-hmm.
pilots would report that they were on the planes chewing wires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he had fought in World War and um, thought he had encountered them overseas. And he was also a big figurehead of the whole like that overarching theme that I think of, like the xenophobia and stuff like that. He hates even down to foreign cars that he doesn't trust. Like
Yeah. Yeah. So, uh, yeah, and a lot of those side stories like that are rather interesting. You know,
yeah, there's a lot of depth to this movie.
hmm especially for something that would be PG-13. Just try and compare this to a movie that's come out in the last 2 decades.
Yeah,
You know,
most movies that come out now are just by the numbers, and that's what I was saying. Like this movie is a lot deeper than it has any right to be. A movie about some cuddly creatures turning into these little
mhm.
scaly monsters. You
I
don't
don't
think
know
you're
if you
getting that.
could credit that to Steven Spielberg, the writing, or the director, but
I th-
definitely one of a kind. It
I th-
almost has. If you think about a lot of '80s movies, though, a lot of them did have, especially stuff in this genre.
a lot of subtext.
Yeah, like all the Scorsese films and
Hmm.
stuff like that. There's always a lot of different plot lines that are
Yeah,
playing out.
I I
So,
I I guess that's something I should have talked about in the pros too. But this movie has a lot of rewatchability, and that's the exact reason why. Because you have those little side things, like you see something
mhm,
new every time you watch it.
yeah,
So you gave him an 8. Bug, what are you giving it?
Um, I'd give it I'd give it a 9 out of 10 easily. Um,
What would you give it? Hardly.
you give it 10. Wow, what? Why aren't you giving it 10 out of 10?
no, I'm not. No, I mean
What docks a
I'd get
point?
what docks a point.
Hmm
For me, I mean, at times I thought it was just too goofy.
It's a
My main
comedy.
No, but my main thing that goes back to is like, hey, they're in the movie theater. Guess what we're gonna do that movie theater? We're gonna blow up that movie theater in a small town.
That was a good plan.
I
How would
mean,
you
it's a
deal with that?
I just it's a little like
Look, have you ever even
exaggerated,
seen the Gremlins?
a little overreaction. To 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 blow up a movie theater, I think it's overreaction.
They were murdering people.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with it. 9 out of
All
10.
right. Do you want docks
Wait,
2
hold on.
points for me? Oh yeah, yeah.
If that's an issue there, um, have you ever seen this is for you, Bug. Have you ever seen Inglorious Bastards?
Yes.
Did you like
Read
it?
that book.
Yes, but that's different.
Well, the ending of that movie is the same as like that whole plot. Like they were all in the movie theater, so they all their enemies were concentrated in one spot, so they're gonna take them all out in one fell swoop.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
say every movie where they blow up a movie theater is a good
Yeah.
movie.
That's a key point. You get 1 point for blowing up the movie theater. All right, Book. Just so 9 out of 10. Go into your deal here, buddy. You're struggling tonight.
um 9 out of 10. It's an instant classic. If anyone knows me, I really enjoy 80s movies because a lot of them are classics. They always have a unique approach to telling stories and getting to the point of stories, and the conclusion isn't always as cliche as most. So um, that's why I give it a 9 out of 10. People I'd recommend it to. Build upon you, John. What you said there about people who it's a good gateway. It's a good gateway drug into the horror genre
You're telling kids to
or the
do
I don't like
drugs?
that
scary
word.
genre.
I don't like that word.
Having people
Oh,
do drugs?
get over it.
Book, you're going to jail. You motherfucking
Yeah.
going to jail.
Oh, it's all right.
I'm
I
a
got it.
big fan of all puppetry in movies.
Speaking of puppetry, did you watch that Dark Crystal on Netflix?
I loved it. Did you watch it?
Yeah, dude, that was like, how long do you think it made him to like do all those
I
puppets?
fucking loved it, dude. Did you laugh every single time they did a running scene
It was
and they
good.
like showed their little legs,
Little stubbies.
little stubbies? And it's funny because like they didn't even try to like put like rods in their feet. They just flailed them around and that was them running. It was like oh, what was that movie that the guys from South Park did?
Team America World Police.
It reminded me of that, you know.
Well, how about
But on,
I was just reading this little note. I don't want to cut you off there, but this was pretty wild. You know what was released the same weekend as Gremlins?
what?
Ghostbusters.
Really?
Imagine seeing that as a double feature in the theaters. Ooh.
Yeah. I'm surprised the movie did so well.
Both of those movies are on the
Yeah.
top, adjusted for modern times and every for inflation, or some of the like the top 10 highest grossing horror films. Like that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
They hate, you know what they say, man. They don't make them like they used to.
Yep.
All right, so it looks like that's it. We got 2 9s and an 8. Watch this movie if you haven't. Watch it. If you have, also watch it. It's like it's Christmas.
Time.
Your Christmas choices for horror movies really aren't out there.
There's 2 movies I watch every year for Christmas: Gremlins and Die Hard.
Of course, Die Hard. I
watched Die Hard
actually
this past weekend.
It's great. It is great. That starts a whole debate: is it a Christmas movie? And it is, but they really don't. You don't get the feel of Christmas because he goes out to L.A. It's different. You don't get the seasons.
They don't shove it down your throat by saying that his dad died by.
John McClane's dad fell down that goddamn chimney. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
He was just one day from retirement.
I actually went. It was last year, 2018, for the 30th anniversary. They put Die Hard back in theaters, and let me tell you, that movie, I love it. Obviously, when it's on TV or if I watch it streaming, but that's definitely a movie to watch in theaters. Like you see, like so much more. I've been on a big kick when they re-release things for anniversaries. Like I saw Ghostbusters, the original one, when they released it. Jaws. If you've never seen Jaws, little spoiler, I never talked about this on the podcast. Jaws is my favorite movie all time. But the one I'm getting stoked for is this 2020 coming up is going to be the 30th anniversary of Goodfellas, and that's also my top 3 favorite movies. I know you were saying Scorsese earlier, so if they throw that in theaters for 30th anniversary, you best believe I'm going.
Yeah, I'll go see it.
Aww.
It's actually been a while since I've seen that.
What? Yeah, not for me, and that's one of my big kryptonites. If it's ever on TV, I just stop what I'm doing. I watch the whole thing. One time, I accidentally was flipping through at HBO. Like we had been gaming for a while, and it was like 2 a.m. I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I got a meeting at 8 a.m. And I was just gonna throw something on the TV to fall asleep, and I was flipping through on HBO. Goodfellas just started, and I stayed up and I watched the whole fucking thing. Oh man, but yeah, hey, that's Gremlins. That's them Gremlins.
So it was nice being here.
Hey, we appreciate having you. Definitely come on more often. I feel like you took a little bit of steam out of Boog though. He's been real quiet tonight. Boogie, all right, bud?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Just hanging in there.
You sound a little bit bitter.
I've been known as the Steam Killer.
That's actually would be a cool name, the Steam Killer. You sound like an enemy in like a steampunk like novel. The Steam Killer. All right, well, this is the point of the episode, Aaron, where I have to do a little bit of plugs. First thing is if you want to give us a follow over on Twitter, it's at HorrorVision. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, if you wanted Boog's telephone number, anything like that, if you have any movies you'd like to see us review or anything you'd like us to check out or want to send us anything, our email is huntershorrorvision@gmail.com. If you are listening to this podcast, obviously you found it. But if you want to listen to it on a different platform, or if you want to go on all of them, we would like that as well, because that's just more hits for us. But we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as Stitcher, Google Play, and there's a couple other ones out there I can't remember. We have
a goddamn place you can put your name.
Yeah, we have a YouTube page as well. The podcast does get posted onto YouTube, but we do a few other things on there. We got some game footage that we've played, some horror themed games, as well as we're gonna start doing some Let's Plays. And I should have had it posted up already, but I didn't. But we're gonna have a couple trailer reactions on there. So if you want to check out, it's just search Hunter's HorrorVision on YouTube, and we're up there. Give us a like and subscribe. I said I'd never be that person, but you know what? You got to. Other than that, we're pretty much all done. We got one more show for the year coming up here. Going to be a little bit different of a show. We're not going to review a movie, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, since it is the end of a decade, we're going to talk about all the top films that have come out between 2010 to 2020, which there's definitely been a resurgence. This is definitely been a good decade for horror, as well as like the movies, games, everything of that nature. As well as we'll talk about some of the worst ones, big disappointments, favorite scenes, favorite moments, things like that. So we're just gonna have a big end of the decade recap there. So do your homework, bud. You be ready for that, bud?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with that.
So you're not going to do any homework on that. Okay. Cool.
Homework has been completed. It is just not turned in.
At least you're consistent.
Will never be.
Other than that, that's all we got. Appreciate everyone listening. And it's been your HorrorVision.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.